Hi guys, welcome back to Movie Recap. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the films from 2016, Swiss Army Man. Without any further, let's get started. Hank Thompson is stranded alone on a remote Pacific island. Despite sending countless SOS messages in bottles and makeshift boats built from trash, no one has come. Starving, exhausted, and overwhelmed by loneliness, Hank decides to hang himself. As he prepares, he hums a melody his mother once taught him, a song meant to remind him not to overthink life, though he can no longer remember the lyrics. Just before he jumps, Hank notices a human body washing ashore. Hoping it might still be alive, he moves toward it, accidentally tightening the rope around his neck. He struggles desperately until the rope snaps. Rushing to the corpse, Hank checks for vital signs and attempts chest compressions, but the body only releases gas caused by decay. Disappointed, Hank speaks to the corpse, confessing that he had hoped hanging himself would reveal his life's purpose. Instead, all he saw was this lifeless, gasping body. He prepares to hang himself again, this time using the corpse's belt. But when waves begin pulling the body back into the ocean, Hank becomes distracted once more. The body floats unnaturally, propelled by trapped gas. Suddenly inspired, Hank ties a rope around the corpse's neck, climbs on top, and rides it across the ocean like a jet ski. The speed knocks him unconscious, and he sinks beneath the waves, only to wake up hours later on a mainland shore. There, Hank finds a sealed bag of cheese puffs, restoring his hope that civilization is nearby. He turns on his phone, but there is no signal. To conserve battery, he shuts it off and heads into the jungle in search of help. Yet after everything the corpse has done for him, Hank can't bring himself to leave it behind.
Take care of us.
He drags the body along, enduring its constant gas emissions. As they move deeper into the forest, Hank discovers signs of human presence, including waste, confirming they're heading the right way. He collects a jacket and a Sports Limited magazine. To stop the body from releasing gas, he plugs it with a cork he finds. When night falls and rain begins pouring, Hank takes shelter in a cave, placing a cup outside to collect rainwater. Unable to sleep and still unable to remember his mother's song lyrics, he begins inventing his own. He eventually falls asleep, unaware that rainwater is seeping into the corpse's mouth. The next morning, Hank wakes to see a raccoon gnawing on the body. He tries to catch it for food, but it escapes. Frustrated by his lack of progress, Hank decides to abandon the corpse until he notices water pouring from its mouth. Disgusted but desperate, Hank drinks it. When he needs more, he simply presses the body's chest. After losing much of its stored water, the corpse begins making strange mouth noises. Inspired, Hank names him Manny. Hoping to make Manny speak, Hank presses his chest and moves his mouth, but only incoherent sounds come out, until Manny suddenly begins speaking on his own, even singing Hank's improvised song lyrics. Terrified, Hank strikes Manny and runs, later returning with a large stick for protection. Manny remains paralyzed, able to move only his mouth. Unsure whether this is a miracle or a hallucination caused by hunger, Hank accepts Manny's companionship. Manny has no memory of his past life and doesn't understand basic human concepts like home, love, or purpose. Hank tries to trigger Manny's memories using cheese puff dust, but it fails. Instead, Hank begins teaching about human culture using trash scattered throughout the forest, even turning it into toys. Manny's innocent interpretations force Hank to question his own beliefs and confront the fact that he ran away from home. Manny concludes that Hank is searching for love, but paradoxically fled because he believed no one loved him. Hoping to find phone signal, they leave the cave again. Along the way, Hank eats some berries and soon vomits. While Hank is distracted, Manny studies images of women in bikinis from the Sports Limited magazine but doesn't understand their appeal. Hank invents a romantic backstory for one of the women, and as he speaks, Manny's heart suddenly begins beating again. When Hank removes the magazine, the heartbeat fades. When he brings it back, it returns. Most significantly, Manny's crotch begins to function like a compass, always pointing in the same direction even when Hank moves him. Once again, the two set out into the unknown, using a magazine to power Manny's compass. However, after a few hours, it stops working. During their journey, Hank launches into a deeply personal discussion about human intimacy. He admits that he hasn't touched himself since childhood, after his father caught him and warned that self-stimulation would shorten his life. His mother then took the opportunity to make a crude joke about it. The experience traumatized Hank so deeply that he cannot even attempt it without thinking about his mother. Sometime later, while exploring the jungle, Hank trips over a massive pile of trash and falls, accidentally activating the phone in his pocket. At the same time, low growling echoes from the trees. Judging by the size of the dump, Hank believes something large and dangerous is nearby. As the sound draws closer, he tries to pull Manny away, but they slip and slide down a hill. Hank's phone falls from his pocket, and Manny sees the lock screen, a photo of a beautiful woman Hank once saw on a bus. The sight causes Manny's heart to start beating again. Hank quickly grabs the phone and turns it off to conserve battery life, then resumes trying to find a way back into the jungle or at least locate food. However, Manny insists the phone belongs to him. He believes seeing the woman again might help restore his memories and lead them back to civilization. Reluctantly, Hank agrees to a plan. He dresses up like the woman using trash and discarded materials. Though anxious at first, Hank is surprised when Manny finds him attractive, and the experience significantly improves Manny's ability to communicate. Encouraged, Hank commits fully to the idea. Using more trash and natural materials, he builds a fake bus and teaches Manny how to talk to women, describing how wonderful the girl was and how he wanted to spend his entire life with her, feelings Hank never had the courage to express. Manny gradually remembers her name, Sarah Johnson, giving Hank renewed hope. Still pretending to be Sarah, Hank creates elaborate scenarios to teach Manny about dating, movies, and parties. The two bond deeply and even begin holding hands. One evening, Manny accidentally chokes on food, and when Hank performs the Heimlich maneuver, he discovers Manny has developed a new ability. He can launch objects great distances with his mouth. Using this, Hank creates a rope and hook system that finally allows them to climb back into the forest. As they continue searching for help, they stop at night to build more fictional date settings. Hank also begins using Manny's abilities for survival. His mouth becomes a powerful weapon for hunting, a source of water, and even a makeshift shower, while his rigid limbs help chop wood. One night, they find a bottle of vodka in the trash and throw a drunken party. Manny tells Sarah that she is the one and that he just wants her to be happy. They share a tender moment and nearly kiss, but Hank abruptly stops it before things go too far. Eventually, they reach a river separated by a cliff. The only way across is a set of unstable pipelines, acting as a bridge. With no other option, Hank uses Sarah's photo to activate Manny's compass one last time, confirming the path. Hank straps Manny to his back and begins crawling across, already terrified. Manny's constant talking only heightens his anxiety. Manny brings up how strange their relationship has felt since the night they nearly kissed, but Hank refuses to confront it. Suddenly, part of the pipeline collapses, and they slip, barely hanging on as their clothes catch on a jagged piece of metal. For the first time, Manny realizes he is afraid, because he would truly miss Hank if he died. When the metal finally breaks, they plunge into the river. Manny begins to sink, and Hank dives after him. As he swims, Hank recalls all their imagined dates. Underwater, he kisses Manny, and Manny smiles. Hank removes the cork he had jammed into Manny's backside, allowing Manny's gas to propel them out of the river to safety. Once they reach the coast, Hank once again relies on Manny's unusual abilities, using his mouth like a grappling hook to fire a line and pull them back toward the pipelines. They cross safely, and when night falls, Hank uses Manny's gas to start a fire. When Hank asks Manny who might be waiting for him at home, he admits that his mother has passed away and that he hasn't spoken to his father in years, so he doubts anyone is worried about him. Manny finds it foolish to keep emotions bottled up. He declares that when they reunite with Sarah, he plans to express all his feelings to her and even show her his gas. After Hank explains that people don't do such things, Manny understands why Hank never breaks wind around others. To Manny, society sounds like a place where fun is forbidden. Manny suggests they could continue their imaginary dates in the forest. Although Hank finds the idea tempting, he pauses to relieve himself. When he turns on his phone, he realizes he finally has a signal. He then reveals, through social media, that he has been following Sarah. Hank discovers that Sarah is married and has a daughter named Chrissy. Feeling ashamed, Hank confesses to Manny that the phone actually belongs to him and that Sarah was never someone he knew, just a woman he saw on the bus every day, fell in love with, and never spoke to. Before they can fully discuss this, Manny warns Hank about a bear nearby. Hank drops the phone and positions Manny to use his mouth shooter, but when Manny sees the photo of Sarah with her husband, his abilities stop working. He loses all hope. The bear attacks, injuring Hank's leg as he drags both himself and Manny away. Despite Manny's anger over Hank's lies, Hank manages to scare the bear by grabbing a burning branch. When that fails, he presses the branch against Manny's back, causing him to break wind and launch them into the air, where they land atop a tree. From their high vantage point, they can see a clear route and even passing cars, which excites Hank but devastates Manny. Manny breaks down, saying people shouldn't have to hide their thoughts and wishes he were dead. Hank, overwhelmed by painful memories, accuses Manny of being the cause of his suffering. The emotional strain causes Hank to fall from the tree, worsening his injury. The bear returns, bites his leg, and begins dragging him away. Believing he is about to die, Hank tells Manny that their bodies will eventually decay together and that it's beautiful. This finally motivates Manny to move on his own. He falls from the tree and breaks wind into their bonfire, frightening the bear away. After thanking Manny for saving his life, Hank collapses. When Hank wakes the next morning, Manny is pulling him toward civilization, straight out of the forest and onto Sarah's lawn. Manny urges Hank to tell Sarah everything he has learned, but Hank panics and tries to run. Manny stops him. Chrissy discovers them fighting on the grass and begins asking awkward questions. Manny explains that they are lost and need help, then attempts to impress her with his abilities, only to scare her into tears. Hearing her daughter cry, Sarah comes outside and initially believes the men are dangerous. Chrissy quickly insists they need help, so Sarah goes back inside and calls 911. After she leaves, Manny admits he hated the way people looked at him and realizes that, as a corpse, he cannot continue living this way. After asking Hank to never tell Sarah about his feelings, Manny dies. Hours later, police and paramedics arrive. While Hank is treated, officers examine Manny's body and conclude Hank did not kill him. They believe Manny was another bridge jumper and that the phone belonged to him. Hank's father is called to identify the body. When he arrives, Hank hides, but he is shocked to see how devastated his father is, unable even to look at the corpse. As police show Sarah the disturbing photos found on the phone, a TV reporter arrives and attempts to interview Hank. He finally snaps, shouting that the police have mistaken their identities and declaring that Manny is the reason he is still alive. After apologizing to a horrified Sarah, Hank grabs Manny's body and carries it away, ignoring his father's pleas. Hank returns Manny to the forest, mounts him one last time, and rides him down a slope until they tumble together into the river, refusing to let Manny end up forgotten in a morgue, buried in an unmarked grave. As Hank swims away with Manny, Sarah, her family, Hank's father, and the police try to pursue him, discovering all the sets Hank had built along the way. Sarah realizes that Hank even recreated the notebook she had been using, down to the smallest detail. When Hank finally reaches the beach, he speaks to Manny, desperately pleading for him to wake up and telling him how much he means to him. Manny remains unresponsive and the police arrest Hank. Before being taken away, Hank gives his friend one final tribute, causing Manny to release gas in front of everyone. Just as they are about to leave, Manny suddenly begins to tremble and releases gas once more. Stunned, the police allow Hank to approach and say goodbye, as the waves carry Manny's now smiling body out to sea. Thanks for watching, and remember to turn on your notifications to watch more movie recaps like this one.